This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi. We're learning Sefer Ezra, Perek Beis, Pasuk Mem Gimel. Mem Gimel. And we're just going to go back. We're going to talk about the Nesinim. HaNesinim. We're talking about the Jews and all of their people who went along with them, who are returning back to Eretz Yisrael upon the call of Koresh. And now we're talking about the Nesinim. The Nesinim, of course, were members of the Zayin Amamin who occupied Eretz Yisrael. More specifically, they were from the Chivi. And we know that there was a command on us, like Sechaya Kol Neshama, we had to wipe them out. And there's an Isser of marrying them, like Sischatein Bam. But these Nesinim, they came from the city of Givoin, a city in Eretz Yisrael. They were from the Chivim. And they tricked Yehoshua ben Nun and Klal Yisrael. They said, we come from a very faraway land, and we want to join your people. And they converted, but their plot was discovered very quickly. However, because of Chil Hashem, the Yehoshua ben Nun, even though they made a neder and a shvua, but it was betas, it was an error, because the Nesinim tricked us. And we were permitted really to renege on the whole deal and wipe them out. However, because of Chil Hashem, we adhered to our promise and we let them join us. The reason they're called Nesinim is because they were designated to be water carriers and wood choppers. And now it's Machlokes Rishonim in the Gemara in Yevamos whether it is permitted to marry these Nesinim after they converted. So Rashi is of the opinion that after the Nesinim converted, so now they're Jews, so you should be able to marry them. No, Rashi learns Yehoshua ben Nun put an Isser D'Rabbanan on marrying the Nesinim. Yeah? However, Rabbeinu Tam disagrees with Rashi. Rabbeinu Tam says that no, you can't marry the Zayin Amamin even after they convert. The Isser of Lois Sischatein Bam applies even after they convert. So Yehoshua ben Nun did not put an Isser D'Rabbanan on marrying the Nesinim. There was already in place an Isser D'Oraisa from marrying the Nesinim. The only thing that Yehoshua ben Nun did, according to Rabbeinu Tam, was that he designated them to be water carriers and servants of the people. Now it's very interesting. Rashi's opinion, and Rashi's opinion, Rashi in Yevamos, Rashi in Ksubas, was that Yehoshua ben Nun put a ban of marrying them, but that ban would only be in effect until the Beis Hamikdash was built and stood. Once the Beis Hamikdash,
the first one or the second one?
The first one. Okay, but when David HaMelech saw these Nesinim, he saw how cruel their nature was, how bad their nature was. He put a permanent ban on marrying Nesinim, even after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. So now we're going to give the names of these Nesinim. HaNesinim were in Perek Beis, Pasuk Mem Gimel, B'nei Tzicha, B'nei Chasufa, B'nei Tabois. The sons of Tzicha, the sons of Chasufa, the sons of Tabois.
So only the B'nai and not the daughters?
B'nai includes everybody. Includes Banim and Banas also.
Then the children.
The children, correct.
Okay.
B'nai Keros, B'nai Siara, B'nai Fadain, B'nai Levana, B'nai Chagava, B'nai Akov. They have very interesting names. Sihara, Levana means the moon. They had a lot of kids, their names were grasshoppers. You have Chagava, B'nai Chagav, B'nai Shamlai, B'nai Chanan, B'nai Gidel, B'nai Gachar, B'nai Ra'aya, B'nai Ritzin, B'nai Nekoida, B'nai Gazam. Gazam's another kind of grasshopper. B'nai Uza, B'nai Faseach, B'nai Vesai, B'nai Asna, B'nai Meunim, B'nai Nefisim.
Is there any significance to which ones are grouped in sentences together?
Yes. I don't know what it is. But there is significance of which ones are grouped together. But I wish I could tell you what the significance was. Okay. B'nei Asna, B'nei Meunim, B'nei Nefusim, B'nei Vakbuk. Now what's a bakbuk? A bottle. A bottle. A vessel. B'nei Chakufa B'nei Charchor. So the Medrash says like this. In general, a person's name reveals about their nature. But says the Medrash, there are some people that have ugly names, but they're still good guys anyway. For example, the B'nei Bakbuk, B'nei Chakufa, B'nei Charchor. Bakbuk could be like the word pickpock. Right? You know, when somebody says over Dvar Torah and you can be mefakpek in it, you know, you could challenge it. It's not glat. Right? You're mefakpek. Or, so that implies the guy was not such a great guy. You could really, you know, clarify about whether the guy was a good guy or not. But he was a good guy. Despite the fact that his name was rotten, he was still a good guy. Or bakbuk could mean like an empty vessel. You could have a guy, he's an empty vessel. But that's what the name means, but he's still a good guy. B'nei Chakufa, Chakufa comes from the lashon of takif. He's strong, he's mighty, he's a takif, he's an obstinate, harsh person. No, even though his name was Chakufa, he was still a good guy. And then we have a guy by the name of Charchor. Charchor means to instigate. Right? But still, he was a good guy. Okay. These are all Nesinim. B'nei Vatzlos, B'nei Mechida, B'nei Charsha. B'nei Varkois, B'nei Sisra, B'nei Samach.
Charchor was a disease, no?
Charchor? Sounds scary. B'nei Varkois, B'nei Sisra, B'nei Samach, B'nei Netziach, B'nei Chatifa. Okay? So these are all the Nesinim. Fine. Now we come to a new category.
Did you give the total already? Not yet.
Total? No, we're going to give the total of Nesinim together with the servants of Shlomo. They can give a grand total.
No, doesn't he? Well,
No.
Aren't you a Nun Ches?
No, I just did Nun Daled.
A Nun Daled.
Okay, now I'm up to Nun Hey. So those were the totals of the Nesinim. Yeah? Those are the totals of the Nesinim. But we didn't give a grand total yet for the Nesinim. Now we're moving on to the next category. B'nei Avdei Shlomo. The descendants of the Shlomo servants. Now, Shlomo was a long time ago. What are we talking about here? We're talking about after the Churban Bayis Rishon, 52 years after Churban Bayis Rishon. So what do you mean the descendants of Shlomo's servants? Shlomo was 462 years ago. How long did his servants live? I mean, what did he feed them? What were they eating? They lived 462 years.
Great-great-grandchildren.
They had a lot of fish oil, these guys. So omega-3 fish oil with antioxidants, right? What exactly? How did they live so long? So right. It doesn't mean literally the children, but like Mr. Carroll saying, the descendants. B'nei Soitai. The children of Soitai, B'nei HaSoiferes, the children of HaSoiferes. The Ibn Ezra says, what does it mean HaSoiferes? Look at the Ibn Ezra. Yitachin Shem Taya Leisha. It could be it's a name of a description of a woman. In other words, a female scribe. Female scribe. Okay? B'nei Fruda, the descendants of Fruda. B'nei Yala, B'nei Darkoin, B'nei Gidel. B'nei Shefatia, B'nei Chatil, B'nei Peicheres Hatzvayim. That was the name. Peicheres Hatzvayim. B'nei Ami. Kol HaNesinim. If you add up all the Nesinim, U'B'nei Avdei Shlomo, and you add up all the descendants of Shlomo, Shalosh Me'os, Tishim Ushnayim. 392.
I got a question.
Are these servants of Shlomo mentioned any place else? This is the first time in name.
In Sefer Malachim, it talks about Shlomo's
by name?
servants.
These same names?
Well, in Malachim, brings down over here, Aleph, says that Shlomo took servants from the Amori, the Chiti, the Perizi, the Chivi, the Yebusi, who, whatever reason, we didn't kick out of the land. So they're mentioned in Malachim. And now, they're descendants. They maintained a certain royal line. They're the servants of Shlomo. Okay.
And they never they were never accepted into the covenant?
They're Avadim. They're like Gerim.
How is Gerim?
But they're different than Gerim. Why? Because Gerim you could marry.
Mm-hmm.
But Gerim for the Shiva Amamin, you can't marry, according to Rabbeinu Tam. What about according to Rashi? According to Rashi, perhaps he could marry them midai raisa. Maybe there was an Isid Rabbanon on these servants also, but we don't know. Okay. You ready?
They got a separate count from everybody else.
Now we're getting up to the fun part. Try to contain your excitement and try not to hit
The ceiling.
the ceiling. Very good. So, now we're getting up to a very interesting passage. Ve'ele ha'olam, and the following people came up from. Now, until now, in Sefer Ezra, we talk about people who used to live in certain cities in Eretz Yisrael. Now we're going to talk about people who used to live in certain cities in Babylon, in Babylonia. Ve'ele ha'olam, the following went up, mitel melach, from the mound of salt. Tel charsha, the mound of silence. Kruv adon, you know who went up? Kruv adon, imer, v'lo yachlu lahagid beis avoisam, and they could not relate the house of their fathers, v'zaram and their descendants, imi Yisrael heim, whether they were bechlal Jewish or not. Wow, what is going on over here? What's happening? What is happening? So, who are these people? Who are these people?
You lost it? Yeah.
Who are these people?
Samach.
So the Gemara in
Beis
Kedushin
Samach.
on Daf
Got
Ayin.
it? Beis Samach.
The Gemara in Kedushin on Daf Ayin says there are three types of illegitimate people who came up from Bavel going back to Eretz Yisrael. We pointed out earlier that Ezra made sure that anybody with any type of bad yichus left Bavel and went to Eretz Yisrael. Why did he do that? Because since all the Chachamim and all the Rabbanim were going up from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, if these illegitimate people would have stayed in Bavel, there would have been no direction for them. The Rabbanon would not have been able to direct them who to marry, who not to marry, how to conduct themselves. So Ezra said, hey, anybody whose yichus is bad, you're coming with me to Eretz Yisrael. There are three types of people in general that Ezra took, three types of bad yichus in general Ezra took from Bavel and brought them up to Eretz Yisrael. You know who they were? A mamzer, a shtuki, and an asufi. Say what? Well, what are these people? A mamzer, a shtuki. A mamzer we know. A mamzer is a mamzer is a mamzer. Yeah? What's a mamzer? If a woman who's married to another man commits adultery and she has a child, so that child is born, is considered a mamzer. Right? She's married to another man. She can't have kedushin to somebody else. So the child is born out of an illegitimate relation. The child as a mamzer is 1,000% illegitimate. Okay? That's one type of person that Ezra brought up from Eretz Yisrael. Type number 2. You have a shtuki. You know what a shtuki is? The kid says to the mother, Mom, where's Dad? Where's Dad? It's Father's Day. It's Pesach by the Seder. Where's Tata?
East Harlem.
Don't ask that question. He's not going to be here this year. The next year comes. Where's Dad? You said last year you told me I should. Shh. Don't ask that question. Whenever the kid asks who's the father, shtuki. The mother silences him. Why? Because we have no idea who the father is. The father, very possibly, could have been a guy. Best case scenario, the father's a guy. Worst case scenario, the mother was Mizana. And that's why she doesn't want to talk about the father. So the kid is like a suffix mamzer.
It could be.
Could be, best case scenario, the father's a guy. And the kid is fine. But if the father is a Jew, and she lived with
He lived. He lived with the Jew.
She was married.
Who knows? So she lived with, we don't know exactly who she lived with. She could have lived with a relative, right? So we don't know who the father is. The kid is a suffix mamzer. And then there's something called an asufi. We had an asufi in front of our shul about a week ago. But Baruch Hashem, it wasn't a human asufi, it was a bird. We came out of the shul one morning, and there was a cage with 2 expensive parakeets that somebody left for safekeeping. So instead of bringing it to the pet store, they left it in front of the shul. But, you ever hear the story, you walk out the door and you see the little baby in the basket with the letter, please care for my child. So in that case, that's an asufi. You gather in the kid. You don't know Sai the mother, you have no idea Sai the father. You don't know anything.
So how did birds do it? Yeah.
I don't know, I'm telling you, they brought it to the wrong shul, because I'm not the greatest animal lover.
Wasn't Shiluch HaKain.
No Shiluch HaKain. Yeah, we've had a lot of bird adventures lately, but so anyway, so what's an asufi? An asufi is you don't know who the father is, you don't know who the mother is. You don't even know if the kid's Jewish.
The family.
So exactly. Now these, says the Gemara in Kedushin on Daf Ayin, and maybe we have to take a look at this sometime inside. The Gemara in Kedushin quotes the pasuk, this pasuk that we just read. Ve'ela ha'olam mitel melach, tel charsha, kruvadoin, v'lo yachol hagid beis avosim v'zarim Yisrael. What's tel melach? When you hear salt, what city do you think of? Sodom. Tel melach elu b'nei adam shadoimim ma'aseim l'maseh Sodom shenefchel tel melach. Tel melach refers to people whose activities are similar to activities of Sodom. We know in Sodom they committed all kinds of illegitimate relationships. So tel melach refers to mamzerim. That's the first type of group that Ezra brought up. People who acted like Sodom. Tel charsha. What does charsha mean? Cheresh. Quiet. Zeh shekari abba. This is the guy who calls for tata. V'imay meshaskai. And the mother silences him. And who's the third category? The third category is v'lo yachlu lahagid beis avosim v'zarim Yisraelim. This zeh ahu asufi shenesaf min hashuk. So in other words, this pasuk is discreetly alluding to 3 types of people that came back from Bavel. Either Tel Melach refers to who? Mamzerim. Tel Charsha refers to Shasuki. V'lo yachlu lahagid beis avosim im Yisraelheim refers to Asufi. Now what's the middle of the pasuk? Kruv Adon Imer. Says the Gemara, listen to this. The Amar Rabbi Avo. Amar Adain. You know how now we're darshaning the middle of the pasuk, right? You got it? Tel melach is Sodom, mamzerim. Tel charsha shtuki. Zasufi. How do we darshan the 3 words? Kruv, Adon, Imer. Says the Gemara in Kedushin. Adon is Adon, the master of everything. God says, Ani amarti you Yisrael lefanei chashum kekruv. I wanted the Jews to be treated and considered like a kruv, like a cherub, like one of the kruvim, like one of the angelic figures on the Aron. We know the kruvim, which are male and female, represent the devotion of husband and wife to be devoted to each other for relations, not to go to anybody else. So I said Klal Yisrael should be like the 2 kruvim. Do any of the kruvim ever jump off the Aron and go somewhere else? No, they're singularly designated for their mate. But Klal Yisrael acted like Imar. What's an Imar? A namer, a leopard. A leopard is the most chutzpahdik of all the animals. It mates indiscriminately with anybody. So that's what it means. Kruv, Adain, Imer. The Adain said, I wanted you to be like a kruv, but instead you acted like a namer. But others say, you know what Rabbi Avo said? Listen to this. Listen to what the Rebbeinu Shalom said. One way of reading it is, I wanted you to be holy like Chruvim, and you're disqualified like the leopard. No, another way of reading it is, Amar Rabbi Avo, Afal pi shesamo atzman kanamer. Even though you've acted like leopards, and you've been despicable in your actions, Chashuvim lefanai kekruv. I love you like the Chruvim. So it's both ways. I wanted you to be like Kruvim, you acted like leopards. And the other way is, you've acted like leopards, but I still love you like Kruvim. And it could be both true. The Rebbeinu Shalom wanted us to act like Kruvim. We didn't act that way. But even though we acted like leopards, Rebbeinu Shalom says, I still love the Nefesh Yisrael like Kruvim. Okay, very interesting pasuk. Now, why are we darshaning this pasuk? All of a sudden we come such big darshanim. All the other names we didn't darshan, right? Why now? The answer is these are the only names of cities in Bavel listed in the whole parak. Who cares what the names of the Babylonian cities were? We care about the names of the cities in Eretz Yisrael, but the names of the Babylonian cities, Ve'ela ha'olam mitel melach tel charsha. The answer is so that we realize that it's discreetly telling me who is coming up from Bavel. Okay, now very interesting. Who are they? Bnei Delaya, Bnei Tovia, Bnei Nekaida, Sheish, Me'os, Chamishim, Ushnaim. 652. Now we're talking about the names of the Kohanim.
Didn't he give the Kohanim before?
Oh.
Last week? Did he give the Kohanim I think it was the first one, if I remember well. Well, again.
Oh, so Yeshaya is asking, yeah,
Right.
that we already listed the names of the Kohanim earlier. So why are we interrupting the Kohanim and then with Nesinim, Mamzerim, Shtuki, Asufi, and going back to the Kohanim? Are these different Kohanim?
Yeah, that's different.
What is this referring to?
Here, Kohanim, Lamed Vav.
Lamed Vav, good kasha. So Charlie was paying attention. So the answer is these are different Kohanim. So why are we breaking them up? Because these Kohanim were questionable.
These Kohanim were Kasha, or were they in the different town, were they in the towns
No,
that
we're
you
gonna
mentioned before?
So these Kohanim that we're about to name are questionable Kohanim.
Okay.
What is questionable about them? So get ready for this. Umibnei Kohanim, bnei Chavaya, bnei Hakoitz, the descendants of the Kohanim. Bnei Barzilai, the sons of the Barzilai. Let's see for a minute. Asher lokach mi benois Barzilai. When we say the descendants of Barzilai, it doesn't mean ben achar ben. It means the ones who married the son of, the one Asher lokach mi benois Barzilai. There's a guy named Barzilai. Barzilai had a daughter, and whoever married Barzilai's daughter took upon themselves their father-in-law's name. They took upon themselves their father-in-law's name. So there were Kohanim, Bnei Chavaya, Bnei Hakoitz, and there were Kohanim. These Kohanim married the daughter of Barzilai. And they then became known as the Bnei Barzilai. Asher lokach mi benois Barzilai hagla de isha, bayikari al shemam, and then they began to be called by their name. What does this mean? That all the descendants of Barzilai Hagaladi took a wife, and they became known by the name of Barzilai because they took his daughters. Now, who is this Barzilai guy? And who are the Bnei Barzilai? Barzilai was a ger. Barzilai was a ger, and this ger had daughters. And Kohanim married his daughters. Is a Kohen allowed to marry a Giyares? No. Is a Kohen allowed to marry someone who had a ger in their ancestry?
Officially not.
Yes, but if the father was a ger and the mother is a Giyares, you can't marry their child.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? There has to be at least one parent who is a original Jew. So if the father is a ger and the mother is Jewish from birth, a Kohen can marry their daughter. If the father is Jewish from birth and the mother is a Giyares, I believe the Kohen can marry their daughter. But if both parents are proselytes, thank you. That's a tough one. I'm going to go with if both parents are Gerim, then a Kohen cannot marry their daughter. Who is Barzillai? Barzillai was a Ger. Who was his wife? We have absolutely no idea. We don't know if his wife was a proselyte. Or maybe she grew up in Borough Park and she was Jewish all her life. We don't know. She could have grown up in, Kitchen Sink, Idaho. Or she could have grown up in Williamsburg. We have no idea who his wife was. What's the nafkamina? Who cares who his wife was? The problem was Kohanim married his daughters. He was a nice guy. He was a chashuva guy. He was a well-respected guy. And his daughters were very sought after. And the Kohanim married his daughter. So what's the problem? Problem is we don't know who his wife was. If his wife was a Giyares, then all his son-in-laws who were Kohanim now disqualified their descendants to kahuna. But if his wife was a good, from birth, Jewish from birth lady, then the Kohanim who married his daughters, no problem. They were allowed to marry his daughters, and the children are still valid, authentic Kohanim. So here's the problem. Again, you got the story. There's a guy by the name of Barzillai. Barzillai was a ger. The problem is we don't know what his wife was. His son-in-laws who married his daughter, they did not do their due diligence in figuring out who Barzillai was married to. And because of that, their descendants were in question. And therefore, when they came back to Eretz Yisrael, we had one question for them. Who's your mother-in-law? Who's the shviger? That's always the question of the day, right? That's always an important question. But to them, that was a very important question. Who's the mother-in-law? Who's the shviger? Because if your shviger was a giyares, boy, are you in trouble. So what happened? Look in Pasuk Samach Beis. Eila, these people, Bikshuk Savam, they looked for the document, Hamas Yachasim, that would trace their lineage, to be able to record who Barzillai was married to. V'loinim so! They couldn't find it. Now that's very strange, because we're not talking 500 years ago. We're talking one generation. Where's the document? Where's the document? Vayegoyalu min kahuna, and therefore they were disqualified from kahuna. The Bnei Barzillai, these son-in-laws of his, who married his daughters, who they were valid kohanim, but they married the daughter of Barzillai, and we don't know who Barzillai was married to. Their descendants were now disqualified. But not completely. For some things, yeah. For some things, no. Look at Rashi. Look at number Samach Beis. Eila kohanim halalu. These kohanim, hamas yachasim, who should have been able to prove their lineage. They should have been able to prove their lineage with that document. They were. Now, Megoyalim with an aleph means differently than Megoyalim with an ayin. Megoyalim with an aleph means disgusting. Megual with an ayin means exiled. They could not continue to practice. They cannot continue to practice with the other kohanim. So now what? What happened to them? Look in Samach Gimel. Okay, very interesting.
No, you said that Archie says what were they qualified for?
Oh, what were they qualified and what were they not?
You told me what.
So we didn't say yet. We're gonna explain now.
Okay.
That first thing we have to know is, where were these kohanim for the last 52 years? In Bavel.
Yeah.
As a kohen in Bavel, what is that? What rights does that give you?
The first aliyah.
You get the first aliyah, right?
Oh,
So shkoyach. Shkoyach, you get the first aliyah, right? Really, anybody can get the first. Talmid Chacham get the first aliyah. So that's a duchen. Okay. Now were these kohanim duchening in Bavel? Yeah. They maintain that they're valid kohanim. So we said, who's your mother-in-law? No, don't worry, she's a good lady. Who is she? They couldn't prove it. They couldn't prove her lineage. Were they eating truma in Bavel? So you say truma. There's truma only in Eretz Yisrael. Not true. In Bavel, there's truma midrabana. So were these guys eating truma in Bavel? Yeah. For breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they were eating not tuna sandwiches, truma sandwiches. Right? They're eating truma sandwiches. They're midrabana. So now they come to Eretz Yisrael. So you know what they say? Chazaka! We were kohanim until now. We duchened. We got the first aliyah. We even ate truma midrabanan. So status quo. Let the status continue. The Chum said, wait a second. But in Eretz Yisrael, the truma is truma d'oraisa. So they said, truma is truma is truma. If our status quo is we could eat truma, then we should even be able to eat truma d'oraisa. Then they tried to take it a step up. They said, now we could eat karbanos. Why can't we eat karbanos? So listen to what the Chachamim said. Chachamim said, whatever you used to be doing in Bavel, you duchened, continue to duchen. You got the first aliyah, you continue to get the first aliyah. You ate truma midrabanan, continue to eat truma midrabanan. Were you eating karbanos in Bavel? They said, there were no karbanos in Bavel. So they said, then you don't have a chazaka to eat karbanos. You come back to Eretz Yisrael, you're disqualified from eating karbanos. So they said, are we kohanim or we not kohanim? And they said to him, we don't know. It's a suffix. Therefore, what do you do when you have suffix? Chazaka. So Chazaka says, you used to be eating truma d'rabanan, continue to eat truma d'rabanan. Did you used to be eating karbanos? No, you can't eat karbanos in Eretz Yisrael. But here's the big question. Could they now eat truma midairaisa? So that's a machlokes in the Gemara in Kiddushin. The Gemara in Kiddushin brings a big machlokes on Daf Samach Testament Beis. One opinion is that if they had a chazaka to eat truma, so when they come to Eretz Yisrael they could even eat truma midairaisa. Until now they're only eating truma d'rabanan. We're not going to differentiate between the levels of truma. If they had chazaka for truma, they could continue to eat truma. And the other opinion is no. Their chazaka only allow them to eat truma midrabanan. So they can't eat karbanos, and they can't even eat truma midairaisa. By the way, the Malbim points out that there was another problem with the Bnei Barzilai. Because, again, who is Barzilai? Barzilai was a ger. And he had daughters. And we don't know who he married. And Kohanim married his daughters. So we're not sure if these Kohanim are pure anymore because they married possibly the daughters of a ger and a geras. Says the Malbim, there's another factor here that clouds things. And that is, there was a family of Yisraelim called Bnei Barzilai. So now that people come back to Eretz Yisrael and they say, what's your name? And they say, we're Bnei Barzilai. So we say, are you the Kohanim or are you the Yisraelim? They say, we're the Kohanim. Where's your shtar yichas? They check their wallet, you go into the store, you bought things for $500, and then they say, where's your, pay for it. Oh, I left my credit card at home. Yeah, right. Right? I'll pay you tomorrow. That's what they said. We don't have the shtar yichas. We don't have it. So that also makes this very uncertain. Because you can't even prove you're Kohanim, maybe you're Yisraelim. And what continues to cloud things is that since what's very possible is the Bnei Barzilai Kohanim may have thought in Bavel that they were Yisraelim, and they were not careful to act and marry in accordance with the code of Kohanim. So all of this clouds the status of the Bnei Barzilai. So look in Pasuk Samach Gimel. Vayomer ha-Tirshasa. The Tirshasa said. Who's the Tirshasa? Says Rashi, the Tirshasa is Nehemiah. Nehemiah ben Chaklaya. Why is he called Tirshasa? The word Tirshasa comes from the root matir, to permit, shasa, drink. Why? Because Nehemiah was the butler of the king of Daryavesh, And the problem was, what was the problem? That he had to taste the wine before he served it to the king. Everybody knows that the butler has to taste the wine before. But the problem is, it was touched by a guy. It's a drabanan. And so how can Nehemiah do this? They matter the Yisr of Yai Stam Yenam for Nehemiah because of his job. So Tir Shasa, the one who is permitted for him to drink. Question is, of course they permitted for him. It's Pikuach Nefashos. If he's not going to drink the wine before he gives it to the king, then they're going to kill him. So why does Nehemiah need a special dispensation? Anybody who's doing something in the service of the king, you could even violate Isra D'Oraisa. What was so special that they matter the Isra D'Rabbanan to Nehemiah? The answer is nothing. But I have a good eitzah for Nehemiah. Don't take the job in the first place. Yeah, once you have the job, of course it's Pikuach Nefashos, you have to taste it. But don't take the job! Right? People say, yeah, of course, it's mutter for me to do this because of Parnasa. Yeah, but who gave you the heter to take this type of job where you're putting yourself in a situation where you have to be lenient in the first place? So Chazal allowed Nehemiah to take the job lechatchila, even though taking the job would mean he would be drinking this wine. So Nehemiah said like this: Asher lo yochlu mi kodesh hakadashim. You cannot eat kodesh hakadashim. He told the Bnei Barzilai, you cannot eat kodesh hakadashim. What's kodesh hakadashim? Kachim. Why is kachim called kodesh hakadashim? Not all kachim is kodesh kadashim. Some of it is kachim kalam. The answer is kodesh kadashim could be read differently. Kodesh kadashim could be read. Kodshim in the first place is what? Kodesh. And when you take the portions for the Kohanim, they are Kodesh from something that was already Kadashim. In other words, you're taking the Chaz of a Shaykh to the Kohanim. When you give matanas to a Kohen,
it had to be Kalam. You
no,
can't give it to a
you're
Kohen.
correct. But just in grammar, why are we calling it Kodesh Kadashim? Because the animal itself was already Kodshim. And then you're taking something holy from something that's already holy. So the word Kodesh Kadashim doesn't have to mean
Separated.
the holy of holies.
It's separated.
It can mean it's something which is Kodesh from something that was already Kodshim. As opposed to Truma. Truma is not Kodesh from something that was already Kodshim. It's the guy's grain. The guy had grain, and he makes a Truma. Truma is just Kodesh. But Truma is not something which is holy from something that was already holy. It's Kodesh from Chulin. So, according to one opinion in Kedushin, Nehemiah said, you can't eat Kodshim, but Truma you could eat, even Truma D'Oraisa. And another opinion in Kedushin is no. You can't eat Kodesh, which is Truma, and you can't eat Kadashim, which is Kodshim. Until when? Nehemiah says, this is not permanent, B'nai Barzilai. Eventually the day will come you'll be able to eat. When? Ad amoid kohen l'urim l'tumim. Until the kohen comes with an urim v'tumim, and through Ruach HaKodesh, he'll be able to designate and be able to decipher and know for sure which kohanim are valid, which kohanim are invalid. Now, when is that going to be? Which kohen is the kohen that has urim v'tumim? Because after all, in the times of the second Beis HaMikdash, did the Kohen Gadol have the Urim V'Tumim in times of the second Beis HaMikdash? Oh no. The Gemara in Yuma says there are 5 things missing in the second Beis HaMikdash that they had in the first Beis HaMikdash. What are they?
Urim V'Tumim.
Urim V'Tumim, the Eish, the Urim V'Tumim, the Eish, the Arayin, Shechina, Ruach HaKodesh. All of these things were absent in the times of the second Beis HaMikdash. So presumably, what Nehemiah meant is when Mashiach comes and the Kohen Gadol has the Urim V'Tumim again, so Ruach HaKodesh will be able to determine whether the Bnei Barzilai are kosher l'kuhuna. The Malbim explains another very amazing pshat, that even though they didn't have the Urim V'Tumim in the times of the second Beis HaMikdash, we know they didn't have it. But it was possible that had the returnees reached a high enough level, the Rebbeinu Shalom would have given them the Urim V'Tumim even in the times of the Bayis Sheni. So, at this point in time, Nehemiah was saying, Who knows? Maybe we will be zoicha to have the Urim and Tumim even in times of the second Beis Hamikdash, and then we'll be able to determine your lineage. Okay, Rabbi, say have a wonderful day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.